What's up, everybody? This is Scott from NoLabToMetal.com. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about my Raven collection, mostly vinyl, a few CDs, but Raven, one of my favorite bands since pretty much since I was in high school in the 80s. And Raven were a new wave of British heavy metal bands who started with the second wave of heavy metal. The first wave was, you know, bands like Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and Judas Priest, UFO, Zeppelin, Budgie, all those bands that came out of England in the 70s, in the early 70s and mid 70s that were really popular. And by the end of the 70s, you had magazines like, you know, Cream and Hit Parader and Circus all claiming that can heavy metal survive the 80s? Is heavy metal dead? But of course heavy metal didn't die. Matter of fact, it exploded in the 80s, and we had the new wave of heavy metal, and that new wave just became even more popular than what we had in the 70s. So Raven were one of those bands. They were actually formed in 1974 by Mark and John Gallagher, and so I just thought we'll start there. And with the very first record that I have from them was their first single, which was released in 1980. It is the Don't Need Your Money, Honey single, backed with Wipeout, and it is on the Neat Records label. Neat was a small independent label out of England, and basically these early singles and even their first album was pretty much recorded live, from what I understand. There wasn't a whole lot of time and money for the studio, so they went in and just hashed them out, which is frankly awesome because you get that spontaneity, that raw power that you may not get when you're overdubbing and doing a lot of stuff in the studio. So second release from them was this single, the Hard Ride 7-inch. And this particular copy is autographed. I'm pretty sure the autographs are real. I didn't get them myself, but the seller, I bought this from in England, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, said it was out of his personal collection, and that a lot of these singles were autographed by the band in the stores. I guess that was a big trend during that new wave of British heavy metal. I guess the first Diamond Head album was all signed by the band, and maybe John Gallagher, if you're watching this, can confirm that, you know, these were actually signed and some of them sold in stores like that. So that was their second single, Hard Ride, and then came the first album. That's it. This album is just pure, raw, heavy metal, speed metal, athletic rock, whatever you want to call it. It's Raven. That album cover right there with the band just sitting in a big pile of destroyed instruments. That's pretty much what the album sounds like. Raw, manic, crazy, high speed, high energy. This is early thrash metal right here. Maybe they weren't called thrash metal, but were one of the pioneers of that sound. I don't know if they'll get the credit for that, but they should, because it was like bands like this and Anvil and Exciter that actually were playing, you know, that sound, that speed, long before guys like Metallica and Megadeth were. And this copy is also autographed, same seller. And like I said, I bought this back in I think in the 90s when I bought this. And again, he claims that it was signed by the band, and the autographs look real. I do have some things that are autographed by John personally, and the signatures look pretty close. And again, on the Neat label, and I apologize for the glare, it's very sunny out today. But this one also contains a bunch of other extra stuff. There was the lyric sheet, and then if I can get it all out of the package here, it came with this sheet for merchandise and a backstage pass, if it's one, a form to fill out for your fan club, and a small picture of the band. And then also, if I can get it out of the okay, here we go. It also came with a poster. So that was apparently in the original pressings of all the Rock Until You Drop album. Great album, still among one of my favorites from Raven, if not my favorite. And then I also have the picture disc of that one. Sorry, getting a lot of glare. Upside down. Second album, same style, same raw sound, was Wiped Out. Again on Neat Records. This would have been 1982. And this too came with a insert that had the lyrics and stuff in it. Doesn't have the pulse and all that kind of stuff in it. Not sure it ever really had one. So. And then apparently the band recorded so much material for that Wiped Out session, they had more songs than would fit on the vinyl. So they released this EP, Crash Bang Wallop. Title of the album, description of the sound. And I've seen many copies of this in different colored vinyls. This one here is like a lavender purple, slightly clear, but it says Neat International Records on it too in green. I don't know if I can see that on there or not. But then I also have this copy on this red vinyl. And this is just on the regular Neat label. It's got kind of a marbling to it, black and red. The copy original copy I had back in the 80s was on clear green vinyl, but I just don't need another one. I've already got two just with two colors of vinyl, so I'm happy with that. Okay, their third album is most fans' favorites, and it's one of my favorites as well. I tend to like Rock Till You Drop a little more because I just love that raw sound, but this one is just as great. And this one sort of broke the band because it had a hit on it. All for One, by the way, is the name of the album. But, I mean, great songs. Take Control, Mind Over Metal, Sledgehammer Rock, Hung, Drawn, and Quartered, Seek and Destroy. These are all staples of the Raven set list even today. But the one that really became the hit was Break the Chain. The song is heavy, manic, but it also has this undeniable hook. And that's really what, what started getting more fans into them, because they had that hook. It's definitely not pop, definitely not commercial, but it had just the, grab you by the jugular hook. So that song was actually released as a single, and I have the 7-inch here. And this album was partially mixed by, or I don't know, somehow Udo Dirkschneider from Accept was involved in it, and Michael Wagner, who was working with Accept, was doing the mixing this time. So this one, it still has that raw sound, but it's obviously a better production because the band was getting bigger and there was slightly more money. I don't know how much more money, it doesn't make a difference. This single also came with a song called The Ballad of Marshall Stack, which is an awesome song, B-side that wasn't on the album. And as well, there was these singles released. This is the Born to Be Wild. And you can see the picture of Raven and Udo in there, and I apologize for the glare. But this version of Born to Be Wild is the most crazy, manic version of Born to Be Wild you ever hear. John and Udo just trade off the vocals, and they're just screaming, and it's incredible. It's my favorite. I mean, the original version of Born to Be Wild is great. I love Riot's version of Born to Be Wild. There's so many covers of it, but definitely my favorite version. It's just wild. You'll never hear another one quite as crazy as that. And then also here's the 7-inch, regular 7-inch single. And again, it was on the Neat label, and you can see here the silver Neat label. And of course, the 12-inch single, which includes the Ballad of Marshall Stack, Born to Be Wild, and Break the Chain. Now, in my high school, we had back in the 80s in New Jersey, we had this group of, I don't know, we call them rockers, who all had our denim vests and patches and buttons and backs painted on them. I think everybody had this single, because not only is the single song great, but the two B-sides are as essential as the single itself. So if anybody doesn't have this vinyl, worth picking up. I believe that the songs were released on the CD version as bonus tracks on the 1999 Century Medium, I think, released it. And then, they always say that live albums are the end of an era for the band, and that's probably the case here too, because Raven came up with this incredible live album, live at the Inferno, and I wish I could do his voice because it's just, I mean, the way he screams that song, I would have loved to say it like that. Live at the Inferno! Can't do it. See, I'm not him. Give me a thrash song or a death growl, but anyhow, and it's a gatefold. Sorry about the glare. But again, this is on the Neat label, and it was their last album on the Neat label because they signed with Atlantic Records, and then the sound changed. Unfortunately, the sound changed. You know, once you sign to a bigger label, you tend to lose control a little bit from what I know, and you get bigger name producers, there's more money involved, there's some more people involved, but anyhow, the next album, still a great album, Stay Hard, but definitely has a more commercial, or I don't even know what the word is, more glossy production. Still sounds like Raven, still has that manic edge, but it's not quite as manic as those first 3 records were live at the Inferno. And for some reason they decided to re-record, let's see, what song was it? Hard Ride. It just doesn't compare to the original version. I remember reading something from John Gallagher saying, you know, he wasn't real happy with having to record it either, thought it was a bad decision, but it was a producer decision and they did it, and here it is. It's still a great album. Definitely one of my favorites from the Atlantic years. And I happen to have a Japanese pressing of that as well. And one more pressing, and this was an eBay pickup back before vinyl became ridiculously expensive on eBay. It is autographed, but it is a fake. I 100% know this is a fake. This is not their autographs. But I picked it up for $5. I bid the minimum. I got it. It's kind of cool. I already have a copy that's not autographed and the Japanese copy, so I'm holding on to it in my collection. There's no way this is real. Generally, if I see him in the paint pen, I'm weary about it to begin with, but I have a friend who is an autograph expert in rock autographs, and he looked at it and he agreed with me that they're not real. Still cool. And along with that one came the Pray for the Sun 12-inch single. And again, it's just on the standard, Atlantic Records label. And then came what I think is probably Raven's worst album. There's a few good songs on it, but the pack is back. It went from being crazy, manic heavy metal to almost cartoonish, probably going for that American, LA pop metal sound. From what I've read, the band didn't really have a whole lot of say in it. It was a producer choice, and they did what they did. They recorded the album. It's slick, it's glossy, it doesn't sound a whole lot like Raven. There's still some good songs on here, but it's just not quite the same. And then from what I've read from John Gallagher, the label put absolutely zero, push into the album, and it tanked. So it's a shame, but at the same time, because it tanked, the band decided they had to come back and destroy everybody with their next album, so they came out with the Mad EP. And the Mad EP is just that. They were pissed, and this album proves it. They didn't like what Atlantic did to them. They didn't like the fact that they weren't getting the push that they deserved. The Mad EP, Speed of the Reflex, song number 1, probably one of the best songs they've ever written, and if it's not part of their set list now, it should be. It's just an awesome song. So, Mad EP. And following the Mad EP came Life's a Bitch. Again, on the Atlantic label. Still kind of slick, but again, now we're back to a Raven sound. This is heavy metal. This isn't pop metal. This isn't pop. It's metal, and this album's heavy. And the speed's coming back again. The Savage and the Hungry, fantastic song on this record. And yeah, it's Raven. However, I actually have one more. This is a copy from Mexico, I believe. Pretty much the same, except has that little thing over here. It's over here. but I'm a Raven lunatic, so whenever I see stuff like that, you know, for a decent price, I pick it up. Picked up that Spanish version at a record show in Albuquerque, probably 8-9 years ago. So, anyhow, next album they came out with. Okay, after that album came out, they actually lost their longtime drummer, Rob Wacko Hunter, and they had a new drummer, and their new drummer was Joe Hasselvander, or Hasselblader as the band calls him. And Joe Hasselvander is known for work he's done with Pentagram, and he also recorded with a band probably lesser known to people called Armageddon that I really like. But then they recorded and released this mammoth album. I mean, this thing is just fantastic. The speed, the hooks, the intensity, those shrieking vocals, the crazy guitar solos, the pounding drums. This one has it all. Once again, nothing exceeds like excess. This is on the Combat label. And, you know, has a picture sleeve. But it's on the original Combat label. You know, outside of the first 3 albums, this one is probably another one of my favorites from them. I listen to it all the time. I actually have CD versions of it too. I have the original Combat one, which sounds terrible for some reason. The vinyl sounds way better than the Combat version. But then Century Media, I believe, put it out again. I think it was 1999. They put out a remastered version, which is far superior to the original Combat CD version. So, and then here's this. This is just another one I'll throw in there. This is a cash-in grab by a label called Raw Power. And it's a gatefold, and it's basically a 2-record set that picks and chooses songs from their first 3 records. It's a good collection. There's nothing really on it that's, you know, wasn't released elsewhere, but it's Raven. I'm an vinyl addict, so, you know, had to have it. It's called the Devils Carrion, or something like that. I don't know. There's no Raven logo on there. There's no Raven photographs on there. It's probably, it had nothing to do with that, I'm assuming. So, okay. And after that one would have come Architect of Fear. Architect of Fear was 1991. And again, you have fantastic songs like the title cut and see, White Hot Anger, another one. If that song is not one they play at every single show, I'd be surprised. It is just fantastic. It is Raven. So this was on the Steamhammer label, and it dropped it. It's got the lyric sleeve and the Steamhammer label, and I'm sorry again about the glare. And following that came the album that's playing in the background right now, the Heads Up EP, with that killer cover. Basically, Raven making fun of death metal and all the stuff that was going on in the metal scene at the time. And this EP has, I think it was 4 new songs and then 3 live songs on the B-side. I have it on CD and on vinyl. It's Raven. Can't go wrong with anything Raven. You know, it's athletic rock, it's speed metal, it is Raven. Okay, and then from there, they released a bunch of records actually, but I don't have any of these on vinyl. I don't even know if they are released on vinyl. I haven't seen them yet. But there was Glow from 1994. There was the live album All Monsters Destroy, or Destroy All Monsters, that's it, from 1995. Not quite as good as, you know, Live at the Inferno. I always thought John sounded sick on this, like he was having problems vocally. And I put that in a review on NoLeftAndNo.com, and John actually contacted me and said he was sick on there. But they were in Japan, they had, you know, to get things done, and he did what he could, and it's still a great record. But yeah, I know how that feels. I did a show out in California one time, and I was sick as a dog, but you do what you gotta do, you power through it. It's heavy metal. You know, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to give that attitude, and that's what he did there. And then Everything Louder. which is 1997. And this is Raw Tracks, which is, from what I understand, it was supposed to be a box set release, but that didn't happen, so they just released this CD packed full of B-sides and oddball tracks and bootleg almost live stuff and covers, and then the last one here is One for All, and I don't know if you can see it real well on the screen, but this one is autographed by John. And after he contacted me on my website, I asked him if he'd be kind enough to sign my CD for me, and I sent it to him in the mail, and he was kind enough to sign it and send it back. I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyhow, it was nice of him, and his autograph there does look a lot like the autographs from those older records that I bought from the gentleman in England. And then, see, that would have been in what? Where I leave off at? 2000, One for All came out, and after that, guitarist Mark Gallagher apparently had a really bad accident, had his legs crushed, and it sounded like a really bad, really scary situation for him. But took many years, so the band was on hiatus for a while. Played a handful of shows later on, but didn't release anything else new until 2010, and Walk Through Fire, which is pretty much a description of what the band went through in that 10 years that they were struggling after John's accident. It's the same guys, still Mark, John Gallagher, and still Joe Hasselbander, and this one came with a really nice insert. And then also, it was on a splatter vinyl, which I'll show to you. Red and yellow splatter, custom Raven label. And then it also came with its own 7-inch single. And it too is on the same red and yellow splatter vinyl. And frankly, Walk Through Fire is one of those albums that if I had been doing videos, back in 2010 when this came out, it would have definitely been featured on one of my, favorites of that year, and it was one of my favorites of that year on my No Love to Metal site. So, fantastic release. Again, manic, crazy, heavy metal. It's Raven. If you don't know who Raven is and you like heavy metal, then I suggest you check it out because they roll. And anyhow, that's it. That's my Raven collection. Vinyl, a few CDs. I have some, merchandise and other stuff from them that I might show later on in a different video, but for now, that's it. This one's getting kind of long. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you'll check out Raven. I hope you'll, look into their music. Check out my website, www.nolifetometal.com, and also my discussion board at hardmetal.net. I want to give a big shout out to all my friends on the VC. A bunch of you guys out there. I sure enjoy talking to you guys, and I appreciate you all watching my videos. And that's it. God bless and stay strong. Rock until you drop.